have had wonderful experience through my stroke recovery.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Something inside so strong.
You are listening to The Full Circle. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. It's just gone 10 past 1 o'clock on this fine Monday afternoon. A beautiful moment that we shared in conversation with Lyra last week. If you missed that conversation, speaking about life post the stroke, it was heartfelt and authentic, as things often are with Lyra. You can definitely double back to our podcast. Coming up on the show, I know ordinarily we'd have opened up the show with a song, but it's all right. We've got the second hour of the show to do that. Coming up on the show today, we are talking friendships at work, friends at work, good or bad for business. We're going to talk about the role of workplace friendships in employee satisfaction and performance. We also are going to be celebrating innovation and ingenuity. There is a young, incredible innovator who's developed what they call the Power Hike Solar backpack. And this re-energizes the battery of mobile devices and such things, but they'll tell us more about that. On the other side of two, we're looking at small businesses and giving you some advice and some ways of how you can enjoy free legal services when you're dealing with company disputes. So if you are a small business owner, this is definitely going to be a conversation for you. Lots coming up on the other side of two, also talking around property. Speaking of property, we've been seeing the visuals coming out of the Western Cape. We've had a wet and extremely windy weekend across the country, particularly so in the Western Cape, with those devastating winds literally tearing off trees and roofs of homes and buildings and cars being toppled over. So I hope that you and your loved ones and your property are okay. I know some people have suffered severe losses. There's been death and loss of life, and we send our heartfelt condolences and prayers to those families. But I do hope, particularly if you are in the Western Cape, seeing how severe those weather conditions have been, that you are keeping safe and keeping dry. And I know that school has been called off in most parts of the Western Cape for today. So if you are, let us know the state of your household, the state of you. Are you okay? Are you dry? Are you safe? Is everybody okay? You can send us a voice notes on 061-410-4107, or you can give us a shout on 086 000 2032. Let's take a quick break and then we come back and we get into conversation.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Sibusi Sankosi joins us now. He's a life coach and he specializes in career coaching. And he pops in on the show from time to time to talk to us about matters that pertain to workplace and professionalism. And we spend so much time, in the workplace. A lot of people spending on average 8-9 hours at the office, sometimes even longer, which means that there's a lot of time for you to spend with your colleagues who ultimately become your workplace family, so to speak. I mean, some people even refer to some of their colleagues as my work husband and my work wife, and that just infers how deep that connection is between the two people. And so we thought today we'd interrogate whether or not this is beneficial to you, and how this aids in, I guess, fostering a positive, healthy work environment. But also, is it something that's beneficial to your company if, you are the business owner with all these interpersonal relationships going on? I wonder, do you, as you listen to us, do you have friends at work, or are you one of those people who don't have friends at work. You just clock in, clock out, do your job. You know, you're not trying to talk to anybody. You're not trying to befriend anybody. You're not trying to go to anybody after hours and have after hours drinks with anybody. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. Do you have friends at work, or do you think it's a completely unnecessary thing? How are you doing, Spusis? Are you good?
I'm good, Bridget. I'm good. It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming through, given the fact that it is rather cold and wet in Johannesburg, and that you chose to be with us in studio. So, do you have friends at work?
So first of all, at least now I'm the only one at work because I run my own company. But prior to that, you see, the thing is you must differentiate between types of friends, right?
Yes.
And then I think this will answer your question. I'll give you a long try to answer this question.
Okay.
So you get personal friends at work, you get professional friends, then you get a hybrid of two, right? I used to have professional friends. So it's people that our common goal is career progression, it's to grow. We will speak about Bridget, the CEO, and say, oh, did you see how amazing she was this morning when she was addressing, the group and whatnot? Like, let's go for public speaking classes and so forth. And we would trade sort of like information, right? At times, it does become a hybrid because if we do get along, then we become friends, right?
Yes.
Even outside of the workplace. But I kept mine very professional, Bridget. I don't know. The other one, personal friendships, for me, it's very complicated. But we'll get into that.
And why do you keep it very sort of separate? Why do you keep your professional friendships as professional friendships, where you literally are talking shop? And if you're not talking shop, you're not socializing.
They're very easy to navigate.
Okay.
Right. So the problem with personal friendships at work in most cases is they have mental health benefits and mental health consequences. Okay. When it's good, it's very good. When it's bad, it's very bad. Right. So if you and I get to a point where I can't even put boundaries in place because now it's spilling towards the work. We still work for in the same team, but you've gotten used to be, my bestie and so forth, right? But now when it's time to, really put boundaries and say, let's work, I don't know how it's going to affect you. And if Bridget is not happy with the conversation, you're not speaking to me for 2 weeks. For that 2 weeks, we're avoiding each other. That messes up productivity at all. That for me is the mental health consequence because I don't feel like waking up in the morning. What's happening between me and Bridget? So this whole big picture of this workplace where you can actually progress and grow, now it just comes down to me and Bridget are not talking to each other. That is very dangerous because you are trading something big because of something small. So personal friendships are very dangerous for me.
But now, Spusis, it almost sounds like a catch-22, right? Because we concede human beings are social by nature and we're communal by nature.
Yes.
And so if we're spending so much time in the workplace in a professional setting, then it's almost understood that at some point you're going to build some kind of relationship that goes beyond that boundary.
Yeah.
It almost seems weird not to ask my producers about their husbands and boyfriends and children and,
Yeah. But you see, Bridget, here's the thing, right? The maturity level that's required to really get into that kind of friendship, I think a lot of people have been missing it. I mean, we sat in a lot of HR inquiries back in my days and with my clients right now, and I'm like, should we even be having this conversation, right? The amount of maturity that is required is Busiso and Bridget are matured enough to know when they can set boundaries. That's why I'm saying at the end of the day, there needs to be either a hybrid one or a professional one. Strictly personal is a problem for me. So when we make it hybrid, I will tell you from the beginning, Bridget, these are my plans. This is my career progression. Sometimes I will not sit down with you and have lunch. I'm in a company that has 1,000 people that I can network with. I can't constantly be sitting with you talking about series and so forth. If we can get to that point, then we have a nice sort of like hybrid structure. If it's too personal, it has feelings. Like you said, human beings are communal, but also when we get into those spaces, there's a lot of feelings that are involved, right? And a lot of expectations as a friend and so forth. That becomes a complication. If we can balance it, for me, have a nice hybrid one so that you understand when I change my mind, right? So one moment we used to gossip about the supervisor, but now because I decided I want to grow and it doesn't service me to not have a good relationship, I should be able to say to you, Bridget, I changed my mind. I'm no longer in that clan of criticizing this person. I'm going to try and make it work. If we have a hybrid friendship, you're going to understand. If we only have a personal friendship, then you're going to be like, Usbu, all of a sudden, teacher's pet.
Yes.
Now, they exclude you during lunch, and it just becomes high school. Very messy.
And that description is so high school. All right. So, I mean, I'm not hearing you saying you are against developing friendships in the workplace.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing you saying that connections and relationships in the workplace come with a maturity, and they come with also understanding where we're at that moment and what it serves in that moment.
Exactly. Because you must remember, Bridget, when we wake up in the morning, let's be fair, we are all looking for career progression, right? If you are in a support position, you're trying to get into a management position. Management, you're trying to get into an executive position. That's the whole route of it. If you can't support that in the workplace, right? My job is to gossip with you in the kitchen. My job is to be negative. We're sort of like hyping each other on the wrong stuff. That friendship is not going to be fruitful. It's actually toxic in a way, because we sort of like hype each other up with negative feelings and so forth. So there's nothing wrong as long as you can manage the risk. For me, remember your career progression. You are coming in, you are looking for an executive position, so your friendships are also going to change over time, right? When you start to work, you are looking for that community. When you're trying to move towards management, your crowd changes, right? You want people that inspire you, people that have information. When you get into executive, even worse, sometimes there's actually no friendships at all out there. You understand? So those things are going to change. But if you keep dragging everybody on because you don't want to disappoint them, you're going to have problems.
And this is why he is the career coach. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line, or 086-000-2032. If you are in conversation with myself and Sbusiso Nkosi this afternoon, we're looking at friendships in the workplace. Are they a good or bad idea? And now that we've established, how complex it could be in categorizing these different friendships, professional, personal, hybrid, and Sbusiso says there's no room for the personal, there's room for the professional and the hybrid. You're just asking enough about their personal life, so you don't seem to be like a selfish, closed-off person, but not really that invested. We want to know from you, what do you feel about friendships in the workplace? Do you have any, and have they worked for you, or do you just completely stay away from them? 0614104107 is the number you can WhatsApp us on, or 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Now, how does this impact the workplace, particularly as, the company, I always want to say the owner, the boss, the executive. How do these dynamics of friendship in the workplace impact that environment?
So let's talk about strategic leaders.
Yes.
And let's talk about leaders that are not so bright. Okay. Strategic leaders understand that out of those relationships could actually come sort of like mentor-mentee relationships, which is good for my succession planning as an executive, right? If Bridget is so brilliant and Bridget is starting to hang out with Sbusiso, I need to incentivize this or support it in some way, right? Because I know Bridget is already earmarked succession plan to become an executive, and then that means Sbusiso under Bridget can actually come as the next best manager for the company, 100% sharp, brilliant. You see now, so I have to create a structure for it, right? So if I can get you guys more time outside of the office, right? Just make a suggestion. Hey, Bridget and Sbu, why don't you guys go out? The company will take care of it, right? Or Bridget, I have this project for you. I can see you sort of like bringing Sbu in. Why don't you guys do it together? And then you can do it in your own time. We can book the whole boardroom for you. You understand what I'm encouraging it. The other leaders that are not so smart, they encourage these friendships which actually backfire. So it's friendships without any purpose, without any structure, without any executive plan. So now you've created this cult of people that now go into the kitchen, complain about everybody, creating different cliques, and then you use the line, we are like a family in this company. So if you are smart, you can definitely make it work. But if you're just doing it for face value, you're going to get people into these friendships and encourage the talking, and then productivity goes down because they're like, okay, we're being supported for 3-hour smoke breaks and so forth. that is not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how do you then put that, if you are the strategic leader and you want to foster that kind of environment where friendships in the workplace are incentivized because they serve a purpose?
Yes.
How do you then go about thinking about creating an environment that nurtures and nourishes that and directs people towards that way of friendship?
Yeah. So first of all, Bridget, communicate it very clearly.
Okay.
As a company, me as an executive, this is something that's going to be a huge focus, right? So if you feel like you've got somebody who's your professional friend, you've been having conversations, they've been learning a lot from you, come through to the office. Let's see how we can formalize it. What do you guys need to do in order to become stronger together? It's an open conversation. People like tricks, like, let's see if we can get them together. No, be 100% open. And if the conversation is, hey, I'm busy with a particular project, my line manager won't allow Bridget to touch this project because she's too junior. Can you please put in a word for me? As an executive, hey, it's another learning process. Bring HR in. Let's make it part of a personal development plan. Then nobody's going to bother you.
Yes.
Then the next question is, what do you guys need for that to happen? Listen here. In the 5-day work week, on Wednesday, we would like some time off at least, just to go and sit down. Then you encourage something like that. Is it within the budget? So it must be a very open and honest conversation. One thing that you cannot control, obviously, is the fallout that might happen between Bridget and Spoo.
Yes.
But when they themselves have established that kind of relationship, there's boundaries. That means if something goes wrong, it can be fixed. It's not a matter of, I'm angry at Bridget because she's not apologizing for not eating lunch with me. That one is a completely different story. That one at least can be controlled. But also, as an executive, if I intervene in a mentee-mentor relationship, I don't feel like I'm wasting my time.
Yes.
Because it's aligned with the company. Whereas jumping in because somebody took your mug, I don't have time for that.
Yes.
So it definitely can be nurtured strategically.
Okay. And also within the context of that strategic environment, like you said, even if there is a misunderstanding, because we've already outlined the rules of engagement and the primary reason for our engagement, we'll work around it. So if you are sulking for a day, you're sulking for the day. We know that we still have to work.
Exactly. And then also, because it has been put as part of the personal development plan now, we sort of like formalized it, if I can put it like that. Then you can get other assistance. You can get mediation. Somebody else can come through, sit down with you guys. And because it's in my interest as a company and as a director that this thing works. So if it starts to crack, it starts to fall apart, we can have that conversation. But also because you two have taken the role, sort of like Bridget being the leader, right? Somebody's going to have to be the bigger person when all of these breakdowns happen. Then you can come back and say, okay, fine. How do we then fix it? People think it's a formal relationship, but it's actually a friendship. It depends on how you structure it. I mean, you can't go get a CEO. This is why a lot of mentorship programs fail. You get a CEO who's never met this junior, ever. They sit on the 3rd floor. This junior is at open space, they've never met, so they feel intimidated. It does not work. But where it's a little bit of a friendship, I mean, you get to a point where, Bridget, you can even ask like, hey, your daughter was sick last time.
Yes.
That's why we couldn't meet. What's happening with that situation? You don't need all the details, right? Like the blood tests and whatever happened. But it becomes nice and hybrid. Stuff like that works.
Okay, so I'm not doing too bad. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. We're having a conversation around workplace friendships and relationships. Do you have friends in the workplace? Has that worked out for you? Now that you've heard Spoo outline for us the different strategies that you could deploy within the workspace, do you think that your friendships are more hybrid, or are they more professional, or are they purely personal friendships? And how is it working out? 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. Luyanda is standing by with the headline news.
Good afternoon, Bridget. In your headlines, the family of Mfundo Caba, who's prominent in the taxi industry in KwaZulu-Natal, has denied any involvement in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibello Tips Motswane. This is contained in a media statement that has been submitted in the Durban Magistrates Court as evidence. The Umkhonto weSizwe Party's legal representative, Advocate Dalimpofu, says declaring the former President Jacob Zuma ineligible to stand for public office is a violation of his rights. Advocate Mpofu says according to the Constitution, every adult citizen has the right to stand for public office. And the Western Cape Disaster Management Centre says staff are on high alert following the death of a security guard at Demasfontein Farm in Paarl. The security guard was on patrol on a four-wheeler when a tree, which strong winds have uprooted, fell on him this morning. I'll have details on these and other stories at 2.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, leading the conversation. By the way, we're live streaming as per usual on our social media handles at SAFM, wherever you are on social media. We are as well, so you can get a good look at my guest this afternoon, Spusiso Nkosi, who is a life coach, as we talk around friendships at work. Do you have them? Do you have friends at work? And what do those relationships and friendships look like? 06141041007 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Hey, it's Bridget. I'm chasing Pumalanga. I mean, I'm not supporting having a friend in a workplace because I think it won't be like it brings out some unwanted attention in a workplace. Maybe we may have just fought about something small on weekends, and then we'll bring out on a workplace like some attention, and now you're looking at me funny. Hey, you did that in a weekend. So I prefer not having friends, just having some people you work with and have some healthy relationship. Nothing more. Friends are no, it will end in tears. I tell you. Bye.
Oh, I love it. Uti, it will end in tears as we load more voice notes from you guys. Feel free to share your experiences on our WhatsApp on 061-410-4107, or you can give us a call on 086-000-2032. We have from No Name, Ute from No Name. I have a good friendship here with my colleagues, Zanele and Tabi saying, I know name sounds like it's a local shandis. I might ask them to even borrow me some cash. Listen, I'm not going to lie. No Name sounds like the names that they used here sounds like it's somebody in our building on our floor as I look to see who is No Name. We are loading your WhatsApp messages, so you can feel free to send them through on 061-410-4107. And the first message speaking to the sentiment that you were saying that, you know, things can get complicated.
Listen, Bridget, if you were to get 100 calls right now, everybody's going to tell you, personal friendships, not in the workplace. Really not in the workplace. You know, I remember there's a case of somebody who had so many friends at work and they were working for a huge company that has a lot of branches. They never even got to network.
Wow.
Never. Because you have to manage all of those feelings, and this one is not happy about this, and every time this one goes to the bathroom to cry because the manager has shouted at them, you also have to it's too much. Let's keep it professional and hybrid.
All right.
I think it's easy.
Let's go to WhatsApp.
Hi, this is Bridget. I mean, what this guy is alluding to is very important. I've learned it through a bad way. I thought the guy was my friend, stabbed me in the back, thinking that, I mean, all my ideas were sharing, and then I think the guy is my friend. But the guy is only looking for progression on his own, taking my ideas, throwing them out there, and then only to find out later. Then he gets promotion, then there's a backlash now. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know, but it's a very, I mean, I've learned to know that, I mean, when we are at work, we are colleagues. I mean, we can be friends, we are colleagues, but the first and foremost, we are colleagues. And we are not there to make friendships or whatever the case is. We are there to work. That's the first thing that we need to be sure. But when your emotions gravitate to someone, it's not a problem because you get along and then you go along with that guy and then you become fine. But I've learned it. And I need to hear this guy more of what he's saying. Makai in Potchefstroom.
It's like that experience is some traumatizer now. You can hear it in his voice. I love it. Love it when you guys share your experiences. But I mean, I guess that's another thing to it, right? Because even in the scenario that you painted us with a controlled situation that is open and understood, there's still the possibility, as you were saying, we shared ideas. And then guy ran Gijima Pambili and I sold them as though they were his, and now he progressed and I didn't.
It happens. I mean, Bridget, you should see when the two workplace besties get into a fight. And it's mostly because they're in the same team. Because that's what I always ask people. I'm like, okay, you guys are in the same team. This team requires one supervisor. You guys are actually competing for the same position. But when now time comes for us to really compete, are you going to respect me, Bridget, and say, Spoo, you my bestie, but gloves on, let's do it? Or now is it going to change all of those dynamics? You see now, that's why those things become very problematic for me. And the amount of maturity that is required, I go back to it again.
Yeah.
I'm not saying people shouldn't be friends at work. The amount of maturity that is required to drive something like this, it's a high level of emotional intelligence where I can be able to support you. Bridget, go on, move up. You've beaten me. But please, once you get into that higher position, come back and mentor me and whatever the case is, right? But you can already tell that requires you to have that hybrid structure. It can't be strictly personal. You must remember, sometimes personal friendships, they never even discuss work, Bridget. That's the funny thing. Never discuss work sometimes. It's the kitchen, it's the coffee, it's this manager is bad, this environment is toxic, Two toxic people speaking about toxicity. Because that's where it starts, with your guys' gossip. That's where the toxicity is. So I do not recommend it. If it happens organically, like the guy said on the voice note, I've seen it happen before. It happens organically and then we get along. I think then it becomes much more easier. But don't go around picking besties. You're not like Pokemon. I choose you. It doesn't work. Like, don't go choosing people. Let it grow organically, Much more simpler.
And people get all weirded out when I say I've got colleagues at work. In all my 20 years coming up on radio next year, and people are like, who's your radio bestie? And I'm like, I've got colleagues.
Good for you.
I'm in a highly competitive environment. We compete for the same things. And it's a very personal world, and you must understand it's a very personal world. It's difficult
It's for your family. Bridget, you are here to grow your career progression, to move on to the next level, first and foremost, for you. If you have kids, it's for your kids. So you cannot compromise that because somebody's feelings are hurt at work. Right. For me, that trade-off, it's really not worth it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back to WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 0614104107.
Good afternoon, Bridget and the brilliant team behind the scenes. I'm Donald in Rustenburg. No friends at work. No friends at work. At work, we are just colleagues. We are workmates. That's it. We can just maintain a sort of a work relationship. That's all.
Hello, Bridget. My take in this conversation is that there shall be no relationship whatsoever at workplace. I believe in a healthy professional relationship, but not in a friendship or emotional relationship at work, because that can be a very, very bad thing. I always tell my juniors and so on, I tell them that I'm not at work to be liked. Nobody must like me. But if my client, which are my patient, can like me, I think I'm okay with that. So I'm not going to work to be liked, to be loved. I'm going to perform. If my client, because I work in a health industry, My clientele will be my patient. If they can like me, I'm okay with that. Thank you. Bye.
We got a message that says, I treat my job like that of a soccer player. No friend zone. Calculate your position. It's a competition of its own. Know your race. And that was Brian out in Protea Glen. William in East London. How are you doing, William? William?
Hello, yes.
Yes,
I'm
go
fine,
ahead.
and you, Bridget?
We are good.
Yeah,
We are good. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bridget, with mine, I think I was in a government department. I was involved in the unions, and normally I used to challenge management because in our unit we had more positions, and then there were people who were qualified, but they were not appointing them. They were not advertising. Later, these friends of mine, they were qualified. I fought for them. They got promotions. Later, I fought for them. They went to different units, and then when they were there, one day I realized I just made an unannounced visit to one of my friends. I found him that they advertised the post, and he was the one that was shortlisted. So he didn't even tell me that, here are the posts, you're qualified, you know the jobs. Always when there are posts, they were not telling me. Until even I never got promotion. I just didn't resign from government. So that was because we were friends. We were like on weekend we can call each other and travel, different places. But when there are opportunities, they will be just silent.
Bayakshi. Askis, William. Thank you, William. Askis. Sorry about that experience. As you said, crossing that line into the deeply personal is very tricky.
Very tricky. And I mean, you're getting the sentiments, Bridget.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It actually really does not work. So I think, at the end of the day, professional friendships will help you with your career progression. If you can make it hybrid, make it hybrid. Strictly personal, I'm not saying it cannot exist. It has to be organic. It really has to be organic. I've never seen a successful case, by the way. But I think they could be. I don't know. I'm skeptical, but yeah.
I'm searching my mind as well to see, do I have anybody in this industry that I would, that I'm in direct sort of parallel careers that I'd be like, they are a friend. Oh, it's difficult. Anyways, Busiso, we always appreciate the time with you. Thank you for coming through. I think you've affirmed so much for so many people. But just a parting shot. I don't think the aim is not to be liked at work.
Bridget, if you want to be liked, go sell ice cream. I think there's a quote that goes like that.
What a wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, you trust me, we are not there to be liked. We are there to deliver and progress. That is it.
Okay, I stand corrected. If you want to be liked, go back to your mama. Let's take a quick break here and then we'll come back.
Saturday nights on S3 are about to get dramatic. Tune into The Player at 9:30 p.m. and catch Wesley Snipes as a pit boss as he and his team gamble on the ability of security expert Philip Winchester to stop some of the biggest crimes imaginable from playing out. Can he take them down from the inside and get revenge for the death of his wife? Or is it true what they say? The house always wins. Channel your best drama with The Player, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on
South Africa is facing an increase in people diagnosed with non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, cancers, hypertension, lung problems, and obesity. This also increases the number of people living with these diseases and mental health.
Many people living with these preventable diseases may not be immediately aware unless they go for health screening and testing.
It is our responsibility to invest in our healthier future through regular physical activity, healthy diets, and avoiding risky health behaviors such as alcohol and tobacco use.
The Department of Health urges people to go for regular health screening for early detection and effective treatment if they are diagnosed with any of these conditions.
This message is brought to you by the National Department of Health.
Banyana Banyana, African champions and top 16 team in the world are in action on Tuesday the 9th of April at the Loftus Versfall Stadium at 7:30 p.m. They are on the road to the Paris 2024 Olympic qualifiers as they face Nigeria for the last spot in the Olympics. Join us to #PhilipLoftus. Tickets are available at Ticket Pro at 50 Rand for adults and 20 Rand for children under 12 and scholars in uniform. You can also watch the match live on SABC Sports on DTT Channel 4 at 7 p.m. For more details, visit safa.net and Banyana_Banyana on X.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
So the impacts of climate change continue to reverberate across various sectors in South Africa, calling for innovative solutions for some very critical issues that we face, whether we're looking at issues around drought, floods, and of course the subsequent effects that they have on things such as food security, health, infrastructure, etc., etc., etc. I think what we all agree on is that we need more sustainable technologies. So in this response, the Technology Innovation Agency, TIA, under the Department of Science and Innovation, hosted the Global Clean Tech Innovation Program Awards last month in Pretoria. And we are catching up quickly now with an innovator around an interesting solution, the Power Hike Solar Backpack. Nonhlanhla Nkosi is joining us in conversation. How are you doing, Nonhlanhla?
I'm good, Bridget, and how are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. I guess congratulations are in order for making it into the semi-finals, from what I understand, of the Global Clean Tech Innovation Program.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that.
Fantastic. I mean, you can have more excitement in your voice, Nonhlanhla. It's allowed.
It's allowed.
It is allowed.
This is like my first interview, eh?
Is it? Well,
I've never done a radio interview before.
It is the first of many, I'm sure, the first of many.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the development process behind the Power Hike Solar Backpack. Firstly, maybe tell me about, so the ideation behind it and the problem that it solves.
Okay, so basically, the idea came about when I was visiting my aunt in Mpumalanga. I saw a group of students walking to school under the basket sign, carrying their stationary recycled plastic shopping bags.
Yeah.
So at that very moment, I thought, you know what, I can transition whatever pay they're going to into this, developing this solar power backpack for those students. And then later on, I reverted to the hikers.
Nonhlanhla, are we on speaker? Hello? Are we on speaker right now? Okay, we're trying to get Nonhlanhla quickly on a different call because, as you can hear, the audio dips in and out from time to time, and we just have about 5 minutes to be in conversation with her. So we're just trying to get her back on a different line that would give us more stable audio levels. All right, she's back. Okay. Right, let's hear the story again. Sorry about that. So you were in Mpumalanga visiting your aunt and you saw a group of students.
Yeah, and then they were traveling between home and school, carrying their stationary unicycle shopping bags, like under the basking side. So that's where I actually developed that entire idea.
Okay. And then you looked at them carrying their stationery in these shopping bags, and you thought that this would be a great solution for a backpack. How does it then become a Power Hike Solar Backpack?
Okay, so now, like, I envisioned the students carrying a lamp, charging it throughout the day, using that solar backpack, and then later on using that power that they obtain during the day to light up at night as they study. And then considering the fact that those recycled shopping bags, I thought of a better alternative, like creating that backpack. And then later on, I then pivoted into the hikers because these hikers would then have the financial ability to buy these backpacks.
Ah, I see. I mean, very interesting sort of drawing those connections and drawing those lines. And then how does the backpack work from a technology perspective? I mean, you put it on and what does it have inside it that makes it solar powered?
Okay, so on the outside, it has a solar panel that's absorbing all the sunlight and converting it into that electrical power. And then inside your backpack, you have the charge control that facilitates that whole conversion process. And then inside the backpack, you have your storage, like your battery storage that stores the light, and then it connects to your powered device.
I see. And this is still very much a backpack that's, I can still pack books and it becomes a functional, practical backpack?
Yeah, you can pack everything. It's like an 80-liter backpack, but we're also looking at making like a 20 to 30-liter backpack for students.
Very, very, very interesting. Listen, and tell me from an affordability perspective, because I think this is a backpack that so many people would look into, particularly in lower income communities. But when we're talking from an affordability perspective, crunching the numbers, how affordable would you be able to make these?
Okay, so the idea was to sell them at 1,860. Those were the 80-liter hiking backpacks, and then we still have to look at the smaller backpacks, like how much I would actually sell that for.
I see. And of course, we're talking here, when we're talking solar power, right? It answers that whole question about sustainable energies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then tell me, right now I'm presuming you at the prototype stage of this. In terms of durability, how durable are they and long lasting? Because obviously we're just using solar references from our house to try and understand, how this would all play out in the real world.
Okay, so the panel, according to the quality specifications specified on it, that would be like 2 years. Okay. And then the backpacks, the material used, the rooftop fabric, the external material, that's like 5 years.
Okay. I mean, that's a lovely time span, considering, if I'm spending 1.8 on the backpack, it's going to last you between 2 to 5 years. And obviously there's some components that later on in design, you then have to look at changing, repairing, or swapping out.
Definitely. We're also looking at the company having a facility that facilitates the whole repair as well as the replacement of certain components.
Lovely stuff. Listen, I wish we had more time for our conversation today, but we'll definitely be keeping a keen eye on this one. Congratulations to being one of those innovators providing solutions that are practical for, African households and particularly lower income households. Looking forward to this one, the Power Hike Solar Backpack coming in by Nundla Nkosi.
2 years since winning the EFC middleweight title in the most dramatic and controversial fashion, Luke Michael finally defends his belt for the very first time at EFC 112 against the imposing submission machine, J.P. Kruger. And in the co-main event, featherweight champion Iga Smiley Cabeza becomes the next athlete aiming for champ status as he battles the imposing Kaleka Block Kabanda. EFC 112 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The boys of Steve Barker resist to leave the pitch without a ticket to the semis. But there's a big problem. Kevin Hunt's boys say the last dance of happiness belongs to them. This is the Nedbank Cup quarterfinal battle. Stellies versus Matsatsansa Pitori on Saturday, 13 April at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to The Full Circle. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hi, my name is Asanda Chabalala and I'm 12 years old from Makoli. No, I did not know that it was International Women's Day. The women that I look up to is my mom and grandmother. The thing I love about them most is that they take care of me very well. No, I don't think that women are celebrated enough because some people forget about the holiday. The message I would give to women that are listening right now is thank you for supporting children and helping the country.
Hello, my name is Monet Angel Nangwavera and I live in Gauteng. Yes, I do know that today is International Women's Day and that one woman, well, not only one, but two women in my life that I look up to is my mom, my sister, and maybe my grandmother. And what I love most about them is that my mom is very strong. She's very confident and she has so much love. And my sister always supports and motivates me, as well as my mom, and my grandmother is always there for me. No, I do not think that women are celebrated well enough, because as other people in this world, they don't recognize how much our mothers or the women in our lives do for us. They do not even recognize the sacrifices that they make daily for us to be okay and to have everything that we have. How best we can celebrate Women's Day is that we show them love, kindness, and we show them that we really care about them through our actions, not just our words. And we also make them feel appreciated. So all the women who are listening to the show right now, my message for them is that I really love you all. You all are very strong women, and do not let any man or anybody in this world tell you that you are not enough. You are more than enough. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Hello, my name is Dembara Madi. I'm 11 years old. I'm in grade 5. That one woman I look up to the most is my mom. The thing I like the most about her is that she inspires me to be creative and do something no one has ever done before. Yes, I think women are celebrated enough, because on International Women's Day, they celebrate by arranging campaigns, events, rallies, lobbying, and performances to festivals, parties, fun runs, and celebrations. It's better than ever. How best can we celebrate Women's Day? Is by always remembering what women did for us. Like always encouraging us to do best and always loving us. And we need to do the same for them. For the women who are listening right now, keep this message forever. Thank you for helping us through everything. Thank you for encouraging us all the time. Without you, we would be miserable. Happy International Women's Day. May your day be filled with love, respect, and recognition. Keep shining, keep smiling, and keep inspiring everyone around you. On International Women's Day, let's honor the incredible women who paved the way for progress and equality.
Hi everyone, my name is Jonaka Malihas. I'm 10 years old. My school is Sumbezo Primary and I live at Middleland Zone 7. Yes, I know that today is an International Women's Day. The woman that I look up to is Reshma Saujani, the founder of Girls Who Code and Moms First. The most I love about them is because they are dedicated of what they are doing. No, I think women are not celebrated enough because Women's Day shouldn't just be a one-day recognition, but recognition towards women every day. The best we can celebrate the Women's Day is to appreciate women in your life, host a film screening or discussion, and read or listen to content on women's equity. I have the message to all women who are listening to the show right now. Participate in Women's Focus community events. Support women-owned businesses. Watch a documentary about women's rights. Educate yourself and others. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mbali. Yes, I do know that today is Women's Day. The one woman I look up to is my mom. The thing I love most about her is how strong she is. No, I don't think women are celebrated well enough. I'm saying this because women are amazing and they go through a lot. So, they should be celebrated more often. We can celebrate Women's Day best by showing them love and treating them like the queens they are. The message I have to give to all the women listening is thank you for being people that you are to your family, whether you're a mom, an aunt, or granny. And thank you for sharing your love with us.
Hello everyone, I'm Mushfiqa Talib. Today is International Women's Day. In honor of today, I want to talk about a woman who I look up to. She is my mom. And the things I love most about her is that she's caring and understanding and puts the people that she loves first. I don't think women are celebrated and recognized enough. I say this because in this day and age, women still get treated really badly by others and aren't seen for their hard work. But I do think that it's amazing to have a day dedicated to women to show our appreciation and respect for them. Although in my opinion, I say that women deserve more than just a day dedicated to them. Today's girls with ambition are tomorrow's women with perception. Happy Women's Day to all the ladies out there. Bye, everyone.
Hello, friends, and Happy New Week. I hope you had a marvelous weekend filled with joy and happiness. Today is a very special day all around the world. It is International Women's Day. In a period of 24 hours, everywhere around the world, this day will be celebrated. Perhaps you could be curious of why this day is so significant. Well, let me tell you a little story about International Women's Day. This is a day when people all around the world honor and appreciate the wonderful women in their lives. Many years ago, women in many countries began to stand up and speak out for their rights. They wanted to be treated fairly and to have the same opportunities as men. For this reason, women held rallies and demonstrations to demand better working conditions and the rights to vote. So during the year 1911, that is before you and I were born, it is when the first International Women's Day was celebrated. And since then, International Women's Day has grown into a global celebration, with people from all walks of life coming together to support women's rights and gender equality. This is truly a day to recognize the amazing achievements of women in every field. We celebrate the strength, courage, and resilience of women everywhere. Now you might wonder how International Women's Day is different from Women's Day celebrated in August. So the International Women's Day is celebrated all over the world, and the National Women's Day that is celebrated on the 9th of August is only celebrated in South Africa. It is celebrated in commemoration of the 20,000 women that marched to the Union buildings in Pretoria to protest carrying passbooks, with Sophia Williams-De Bruyn, Lillian Ngoyi, Rahima Musa and Helen Joseph on the forefront. Friends, we definitely hope that you will comprehend the difference between both these days. But the most important thing is we are celebrating women. So be cheerful today. Remember to reflect and show gratitude to this amazing day. Again, make it your goal to celebrate this day by showing love and respect to the amazing women in your lives. Whether at school or at home, may we all continue to work towards a more equal and just world for everyone. Happy International Women's Day.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
In our top stories at 2, the family of Mfundo Caba denies involvement in the murder of AKA, and the Enyobeni Tavern inquest postponed. This is SAFM News. A very good afternoon. I am Luyanda Maume. The family of Mfundo Caba, who is prominent in the taxi industry in KwaZulu-Natal, has denied any involvement in the murder of rapper Keenan AKA Forbes and his friend Tibello Tips Mutswane. This is contained in a media statement that has been submitted in the Durban Magistrates Court as evidence. 5 of the 7 accused are applying for bail. 2 other men who were arrested in Eswatini are yet to be extradited. The investigating officer previously said in a sworn statement that the 800,000 rand payment for the hit came from one of the Caba's companies. Advocate Paul Jorgensen, who's representing the accused Mzwetemba Kwabeni, read the statement.
We are concerned that the authorities have not yet approached Mfundo to share his side of the story. We believe in the principle of fairness and the right to be heard, and we urge that this opportunity be extended to him at the earliest convenience. It is crucial to understand that Mfundo has assured the family that he has no connections to any illegal activities, nor does he has any motive to engage in such. His business dealings are legitimate and transparent, having nothing to hide to anyone, least of all our law enforcement.
In some election-related news now, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party's legal representative, Advocate Dali Mpofu, says declaring the former President Jacob Zuma ineligible to stand for public office is a violation of his rights. Advocate Mpofu says according to the Constitution, every adult citizen has the right to stand for public office. He is representing the party in the Electoral Court. The party is appealing the decision by the Electoral Commission to uphold objections to Zuma standing for public office. Advocate Mpofu has lamented the attitude of the Commission towards Zuma.
That
dealing with the right to vote for those people who support this party and former President Zuma. Their right to vote would be infringed because they will not have the right to choose to be represented by the people or persons that they want. We're also dealing with the Section 19 rights of the party itself, but we're also dealing with the rights of former President Zuma, which have been infringed. His rights in terms of Section 19(3)(b), which says that every citizen, those we like and those we don't like, every citizen has the right to stand for political office.
The Electoral Commission's chairperson Mosotho Moepya has urged all political parties and their supporters to exercise restraint and responsibility in the manner in which they communicate to voters ahead of next month's elections. He was speaking in Sandton, Johannesburg, where the Commission and Media Monitoring Africa are hosting a multi-sectoral dialogue on misinformation during the election period. Moepya says the integrity of the upcoming elections can only be maintained through a collaborative effort with stakeholders.
Through collaborative efforts, we aim to safeguard the integrity of our electoral processes and uphold the principles of transparency, accountability, and fairness. However, our success in combating misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation depend not only on the actions of institutions, but also on the cooperation of all stakeholders, particularly those who are contesting in these elections.
On to other news now. The inquest into the deaths of 21 young people at the Enyobeni Tavern in East London will only start on the 11th of next month in the Mdantsane Magistrates Court in the Eastern Cape. It was due to start this morning but was postponed because tavern owners Siakangela and Vuyokazi Ndevu were not available. The couple are key witnesses in the inquest whose aim is to establish if anyone should be held accountable for the deaths which took place in June 2022. Precious Daniels is a tavern owner's legal representative.
I have not consulted with my clients since the last case, which was in late February this year. And also noting that we have not consulted, the state has also not subpoenaed them to be here in court today. So those are the reasons why we've postponed, so that we can get their availability for the next date and that they make sure that we know where I stand legally with regards to representing them. So those are the main reasons why we've postponed today.
So they were not aware of
They were not aware for today.
Okay.
The Western Cape Disaster Management Centre says staff are on high alert following the death of a security guard at Dimmersfontein Farm in Paarl. The security guard was on patrol on a four-wheeler when a tree, which strong winds uprooted, fell on him this morning. The South African Weather Service has issued a warning for disruptive winds and heavy rains in the Boland and Helderberg. The Western Cape Disaster Management Head is Colin Diner.
Schools in those areas have been closed as a precaution and all emergency services have been placed on standby. We've unfortunately had one fatality. A person was doing a patrol on a wine farm in Paarl yesterday. The security guard was injured and lost his life when a tree fell on him due to the high winds.
And finally, Rwandan President Paul Kagame, briefing the media in Kigali, says Rwanda is focused on developing itself since the 1994 genocide against Tutsis. This as the country commemorated 30 years since the tragic event where nearly 1 million people were killed yesterday. Kagame says some countries were involved in the genocide. He says now the focus is on unifying the people of Rwanda regardless of ethnicity.
For Rwanda, we've, I think, made progress. Whether the international community was responsible, well, they have been responsible. For us, we learned our lessons of how to manage ourselves, stop being part of the harm we do or did to ourselves.
Recapping your top story, the family of Mfundo Caba, who's prominent in the taxi industry in KZN, has denied his involvement in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibello Tips Motswane. For SAFM News, I am Luyanda Maume. Headlines at 2:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Channel your inner adventurer on Top Travel this Saturday night at 8:30 on S3 as Fez and Anesu are in Limpopo for tea with a rooibos-loving hippo named Jessica. Jumping off Graskop Gorge in Mpumalanga, Fez screams from the top all the way to the bottom. But standing at God's window will leave anyone speechless. That's Top Travel this Saturday night at 8:30. Repeat Sunday at 1 p.m. on S3.
Banyana, African champions and top 16 team in the world are in action on Tuesday the 9th of April at the Loftus Versfeld Stadium at 7:30 p.m. They are on the road to the Paris 2024 Olympic qualifiers as they face Nigeria for the last spot in the Olympics. Join us to #PhilipLoftus. Tickets are available at Ticket Pro at 50 Rand for adults and 20 Rand for children under 12 and scholars in uniform. You can also watch the match live on SABC Sports on DTT Channel 4 at 7 p.m. For more details, visit safa.net and Banyana_Banyana on X.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Forward to Samklaben, Mama Wamo, Samklaben, she Mama Wamo, anytime she goes, nobody knows. Anytime she goes, anytime she goes. Ain't no sunshine when he's gone. It's not warm when he's away. Ain't no sunshine when he's gone, and he's always gone too long. Anytime he goes away. Wonder this time where he's gone. Wonder if he's gonna stay. Ain't no sunshine when he's gone, and this house just ain't no home. Anytime he goes away. Ain't no sunshine when he's gone, and this house just ain't no home. Anytime he goes away. I know, yes I know. Anytime he goes away, ain't no sunshine when he's gone. Only darkness every day. Ain't no sunshine when he's gone, and this house just ain't no home. Anytime he goes away, ain't no sunshine when he's gone, and he's always gone too long. Anytime he goes away, anytime he goes away.
You know, I had asked for this song at the beginning of the show, and then for some reason, it just my tech was like, we're not playing this song today. Ain't No Sunshine When It's Gone. That is Ladysmith Black Mambazo teaming up with Desiree for that particular one. A beautiful classic right there. Love the work that they've done over the years by way of collaborating with musicians from around the world on different genres, and they always bring an interesting spin to it. In fact, they've got a song on the last release album. Who's our Nigerian brother? Our big Nigerian export? Burna Boy, that's it. Yes, they've got a song on Burna's last album with him. It's a beautiful collaboration. Righto, it's 2:15 on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM, and we are going to be catching up now with the head of communication at the company's tribunal, Simugele Khoza, who joins us in conversation. So, the South African Companies Act allows for small businesses, startups, entrepreneurs, medium and large companies to actually access free legal services across the country, and these are legal services that are free of charge, similarly to the CCMA. But I get the sense that a lot of people actually don't know that these services are on offer, and we thought we would catch up with Simugele. How are you doing this afternoon, Simugele?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Bridget, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for taking the time indeed. Okay, let's talk about this, because I get the feeling that a lot of companies, particularly the small startups, the medium-sized entrepreneurs, are not too familiar with these legal services that are offered free of charge.
Well, thank you very much. I think what I should say first is to briefly explain what the Companies Tribunal is and what it's all about.
Okay.
So the Companies Tribunal is an entity of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. It is established in terms of the Companies Act 71 of 2008. So in the main, the Companies Tribunal is established to resolve company disputes for free and speedily. So how we do that through adjudication, which is 1, 2, through ADR, and as well we can perform any other function that can be assigned to us in terms of the Act. So that is in the main what we do. So if you want to understand what we are doing as the Companies Tribunal, in simple terms, we're saying we provide speedy resolution of company disputes for free. So that is the message that we're actually here to spread this afternoon. Yeah.
All right. Tell me, by way of the types of resolution, or rather the type of, what's the word now? It's just escaped me.
Disputes.
Disputes. There we go. Thank you. The type of disputes that you can intervene on. Give us some sort of examples or categories of disputes that, you would have the power and the authority to intervene and resolve.
Okay. Before we go there, I just want to quickly highlight one thing that is also important about the establishment of the Companies Tribunal. We have members of the Companies Tribunal who are actually appointed by the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. Currently, we've got 11 members. We are led by Judge Dennis Davis. He is assisted by the deputy chairperson by the name of Mina Tongongalo, and 9 other members. So in terms of the applications that one can actually bring or file with the Companies Tribunal, we have a number of them. However, I would want to single out a few and try and actually explain them so that members of the public can actually understand. One of those applications that I want to talk to firstly is the issue of names. And just to say that any person that has to trade in this country, they must have a company that is registered with the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, which is the CIPC. So anyone that comes to the Companies Tribunal, they do so on the basis that they have a company that is registered. It is difficult to come to us when you don't have a company.
Okay.
So because we deal with company disputes. So one of the examples that I want to actually bring here is the issue of names or name disputes. So when you look at what the Act says, that it says that no one should register a name that is confusingly similar to another name. So most of the time you find that people will register names that are confusingly similar so that they can mislead people to believe that this is the same company. For example, we over the years have received we receive a lot of applications relating to name dispute. But I want to give maybe one or two examples relating to name disputes.
Okay.
One, we received an application, for example, from Dolce & Gabbana. Dolce & Gabbana is a clothing brand which is known internationally. So in South Africa, there was a company that was registered as Dolce & Gabbana in one of the towns. I'm not going to mention the town. So Dolce & Gabbana International found out that there's a company also in South Africa which is registered as Dolce & Gabbana. They wrote to us, and as the company's tribunal, we then made an order which we issued to tell Dolce & Gabbana in South Africa to stop trading with this name of Dolce & Gabbana because it confuses people to believe that this is the same.
Yeah.
So that is one. Two, we received also another application from, I think it was from Kulula.com, for example. Kulula is actually an aviation country.
Yeah.
An aviation company in South Africa. Sorry about that. So when they filed an application, they were saying that there's another company that has registered a name similar to theirs. And if I remember very well, that name was Guhlula.
Mm-hmm.
So the company's tribunal ruled in favor of the respondent who happened to be Guhlula because Kulula means to free and Guhlula is basically victory. So sometimes people or companies can bring applications thinking that the names are the same, yet they are different, considering that they also mean two different things. In this case, we find that Guhlula means something else and Kulula means something else. So those are the two examples that I wanted to bring when it comes to name disputes. The other application that I want to also talk to is the issue of director disputes. Directorship disputes are very critical because when people start trading, particularly businesses where you find that they are started with friends, sometimes colleagues, sometimes husband and wife, even boyfriends, you find that they get to a point where they have to go separate ways. So the likelihood is that they will make sure that they also want to remove this person. So what you do is that instead of actually going to get the service of a legal professional, you come to us as the company's tribunal who are able to actually assist you for free. So what I'm actually saying here is that in terms of the law, in terms of the act, we are limited to 2 directors in terms of adjudication. However, we're also able to assist parties if they choose to do that using using ADR. So that's how we actually deal with the issue of the directorship disputes. So what we're also saying is that these are key in terms of ensuring that companies sustain, because it's very important that when one member of the company is not actually executing their responsibilities, the other party have every right to actually file an application to say that I want to remove this particular individual in the company as a director, for example, on the basis that they are not actually executing their responsibilities in line with the constitution of the company. The other one that I quickly want to talk to is the issue of social and ethics.
Okay.
So, considering the socio-economic background of the country, when the act was actually passed, there was an inclusion of what is called social and ethics committees. So social and ethics committees requires companies to be ethically and socially responsible. So on the basis of that, companies would, for example, be required to form these social and ethics committees. Those companies that don't form such committees will then apply to the company's tribunal to say that it is not in the best interest, it is not reasonable in the reasonable public interest for them to have a social and ethics committees. So they will, when they file an application, the company's tribunal will look at the facts that they would have actually presented and actually make a decision on the basis of that. So I've provided 3 examples, but the other example that I want to talk to is the issue of review of CIPC decisions. As the company's tribunal, someone, for example, can file or an application with the CIPC for name reservation, and the CIPC can refuse such a name. And when they do so, they can then come to us to say that I have filed for this particular name and the CIPC has refused. And if they have done that, the company's tribunal will look at that particular application and will actually rule to say that the CIPC may be to actually reserve the name. Because you might find that sometimes they say that this name cannot be reserved on the basis that the name similar, that is almost similar to the name that is actually given, yet they would trade in two different areas. You can think about aviation, and you can also think about, say, the retail sector, for example. You see that there can never be confusion if one is in the retail sector and the other one is in aviation. So those are the examples that I would like to actually bring when it comes to review of, say, IPC decisions.
Okay, and then let's ask you this, Simugela Uti, of everything that you've told us, right, finding resolution and judgments for companies, particularly around some of the categories that you've mentioned, do you then, as the companies tribunal, do you then have some kind of enforcement power and enforcement authority that once you've taken a judgment or reached a decision in a dispute, you then, oversee and make sure that whatever you've declared is then implemented?
Well, that is a bit difficult, I must say, but what is important is to indicate that if, for example, the company's tribunal has actually issued a decision, one is not able with the decision, they've got a recourse, and the recourse is to go to High Court to review the company's tribunal's decision. So that is what I can actually say.
Okay, so you don't necessarily have an enforcement an arm.
Yes.
Okay. Does that then make it tricky for those that bring disputes to you looking for resolutions? Does it then limit how? Because when one says, I'm seeking a resolution to a dispute, ultimately it means that I'm looking for you to make a decision and then enforce the decision on my part. Does that then make it tricky for you to ensure that whatever decision you've then taken is actually then followed through by the respective parties?
Yes, that is correct. And that's why what we have done, we're hoping that there's going to be an expansion in that particular space to make sure that we are able to now get to perhaps enforce that particular decision. So we're hoping that with the progress that has been made in terms of the so-called Companies Amendment Bill, that will perhaps come to light. So we are hoping that that will actually be realized.
Okay. Sorry, I know I put you in a tricky situation. Even for those watching on our stream, you can see Simugel is now fidgety in his chair because, often when we talk to these regulating bodies, I think the sentiment that comes out, even with some of the ombudsmans, is that a lot of the bodies seem to be tigers with no teeth. And so you're good intended, but, ultimately, if things cannot be enforced, then probably Dolce & Gabbana in the middle of nowhere still trading as Dolce & Gabbana in the middle of nowhere, Let's then talk about, you did say that you have to be a registered company in order for you to, to approach you. So obviously inferring that if your company is not registered, you cannot utilize the company's tribunal services.
Correct, yes.
That's correct.
Yes, so if you're not registered, there's no way that you'd use the service of the company's tribunal. So the premise is that you need to have a registered company with the CIPC, and when you start trading, when you have problems or challenges, that's when you can actually come to us, and that's how we basically assist companies over the years.
Yeah. And from an operational perspective, does the company's tribunal also intervene in operational disputes? Say maybe where services are rendered and products and services were supposed to be delivered or exchanged and things did not happen between companies or proprietors, or is that not your domain?
Okay. No, that is not our domain. Let me just say this, that if you look at the mandate of the company's tribunal, in the main, it's within a company. So the disputes that we're talking about are disputes that are within a company, not between company A and company B.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And for anyone wanting to contact you guys, the easiest portals that they can use?
Perfect. Before we do that, I just want to quickly highlight the benefits of utilizing the services of the company's tribunal.
I mean, if you can highlight it in 45 seconds.
Thank you. All right. So the benefits of using the company's tribunal services is that, firstly, it is free, it is speedy, it's quick compared to litigation or going to courts. But above all, we're also informal and very flexible. So through the use of ADR services of the company's tribunal, one is actually able to preserve business relationships which are critical to sustain business operations. So in terms of our contact details, we are available on the website, which is companiestribunal.org.za. We are also available with a telephone number which is 012-394-1000. Our email address is registry@companiestribunal.org.za.
We have to
And as
leave
well,
it
in
there.
terms of social
We have
media-
to leave it there this
Okay.
afternoon, Simugela. Unfortunately, let's take a quick break, and then the headline news is coming up.
South Africa is facing an increase in people diagnosed with non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, cancers, hypertension, lung problems, and obesity. This also increases the number of people living with these diseases and mental health.
Many people living with these preventable diseases may not be immediately aware unless they go for health screening and testing.
It is our responsibility to invest in our healthier future through regular physical activity, healthy diets, and avoiding risky health behaviors such as alcohol and tobacco use.
The Department of Health urges people to go for regular health screening for early detection and effective treatment if they are diagnosed with any of these conditions.
This message is brought to you by the National Department of Health.
The boys of Steve Barker resist to leave the pitch without a ticket to the semis. But there's a big problem. Kevin Hunt's boys say the last dance of happiness belongs to them. This is the Nedbank Cup quarterfinal battle. Stellies versus Matsatsanza Pitori on Saturday, 13 April at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
In your headlines at 2:30, Council for the Umkhonto Wesizwe Party has argued that the IEC acted outside of its jurisdiction when it upheld the objection that disqualifies former President Jacob Zuma for standing for public office in the May elections. The IEC announced last month that Zuma was ineligible to stand for public office under Section 47(1)(e) of the Constitution, which also regulates the membership of the National Assembly. The family of Mfundo Caba, who's prominent in the taxi industry in KZN, has denied his involvement in the murder of rapper Kinan aka Forbes and his friend Tibello Motswane. This is contained in a media statement that has been submitted in the Durban Magistrates Court as evidence. And the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, says his meeting with President Cyril Ramaphosa over the weekend was fruitful. Ramaphosa met with Kagame ahead of the 30th commemoration of the Rwanda genocide in Kigali. I'll have details on these and other stories at 3.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Alrighty, let's take a look now at the South Africa property investment world, and we're unveiling South Africa's property investment gems. We're talking to the founder of the Investor of the Year Awards, which recognizes South African property investors. And we thought we'd have a conversation, not just about the awards, but also just a general conversation around property investment and development within the context of South Africa. I'm sure lots of opportunities to be harnessed and seized there for those entrepreneurs in the space of wanting to get into the space. Andrew Walker joins me now in conversation. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm very good, and you?
I am fantastic, thank you. Cannot complain
Excellent.
at all. And so I wonder, I guess, before we even get into the Investor of the Year Awards, let's just look at, property investment in South Africa and sort of it as a viable and lucrative wealth-creating opportunity. And I'm of the opinion that it probably is.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think if you look at your first-time buyer versus your experienced property investor, a first-time buyer might be looking at interest rates, at 11.75%, electricity prices going, the cost of living has gone up, right? And they might be going, is now the best time to invest? And then you have a conversation with somebody that's been investing for 15 years, who's been through the cycles of interest rates, of high interest rates, low interest rates, and they'll probably say to you, well, when's the best time to invest in property? Because we all know that interest rates go up and down, and they're used to that fluctuation. So you'll find your experienced investors that, you know what, Andrew, there's massive opportunities in the property market. You just need to know where to find them, how to buy them. Does it make financial sense right now? What happens if interest rates do go up? I walked into my office this morning and I said to, Kali and Asipa and my team, I said, ladies, you tell me, are interest rates high right now or they low right now? And Gloria said, I actually think they're quite high because my bond's gone up. I'm paying an extra 4,000 Rand a month for my bond. And we had a conversation going, are interest rates actually quite high or low? And some people might say they're high, and some people, if you compare them to 1998, they were 24%. In 2003, they were 17%. So actually, compared to that, our interest rates are quite low. But you look back in what was it, 2001, June or around that time, interest rates were 7%. So it's high compared to the 7%. So I think there's awesome opportunities in South Africa right now. And I get why first-time buyers are being a bit skeptical, and they're scared because of the rise of the interest rates from the pandemic.
Yeah. Let's also touch a little bit about perhaps some of the challenges, for those wanting to get into the property investment game, because it's a different mindset to just buying your first home when you want to get into it from an investor and business perspective.
Yeah, look, I'd say, some of the challenges for first-time buyers, even your beginner investors who may own, one property, is always getting finance, right? It's the affordability. And that's why, when you do go to banks like, Absa Home Loan, as an example, they've got a product called Future Rental product, which means if you currently if you own a property right now, let's say you own a property and you would like to go buy a second property, as you know, the banks need to look at your affordability. And Absa Bank Home Loans is the only bank in the country that will say, you know what, we will use a percentage of the future rental income of your next property. They'll add that to your affordability, because yes, a challenge is affordability. But if you know about other products like that specific product that was mentioned, that's going to help you get the extra affordability that you need to get that second property. And I think once you can understand all the different ways of financing a property investment, you'll take the challenge, because some people go, no, you've got to be a multi-millionaire. You need to have millions of rands in the banks just to get started in property. That's not actually the truth. There are other ways, but and obviously I can't go into all of them right now because you and I will have this conversation for 4 hours. But people just need to know that they need to get the right education through the SA Property Investors Network to understand that there's other ways of getting into the property sector.
Yeah. And from a perspective of, we see a lot of young black and brown investors and entrepreneurs trying to penetrate the space, and people speak of various challenges that are posed, because we also can't run away from the rationalization of capitalism to some degree. Are you seeing a sort of significant increase in black and brown investors getting into the space? And are their set of challenges and burdens varied or very similar or the same as any other race that would have been in this space prior?
Yeah, well, look, I think it was last year a report came out, I think it was Private Property last year or even the year before, where they said your largest property buyer are black females around the age, I think it was of early 30s. And we are seeing more and more young black entrepreneurs coming through the property sector. I use the word entrepreneurs because a lot of these young entrepreneurs are wanting to get into not just property investing, but the property industry and the property sector. That's why Absa Bank and SAP, and we've actually created a youth division for young black entrepreneurs getting into the space and showing them, how to invest. But I think if you stand back and think about it, we're talking about property. Who here in South Africa, regardless of color and regardless of age, want to get into property? This last weekend, I had a 2-day property workshop here in Edenvale in Joburg, and we had a matric. She's 17 years old, and she's now going to be coached by a young SAP and youth program, and she just wants to get into property. And she's a white young female. Yeah. So I'm seeing both white, brown, and black. And the great thing is, I think everyone's realizing what this country needs are more entrepreneurs.
And in terms of the Investor of the Year Awards, give us some context on that. And that recognizes those playing within the property investment sector.
Yeah, 100%. So it's a 4th year we're doing it. We started in 2018, 2019, 2021, and now 2024. Now, have you ever watched Britain's Got Talent or Pop Idols or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay, so now imagine that whole setup.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same concept, but for property investors here in South Africa. Now, it doesn't matter if you've just bought your very first buy-to-let or very basic investment, or perhaps you've been investing for a few years and you've got a few properties, or you're a developer. There's specific categories within the Investor of the Year Awards where we go around to Durban, Cape Town, Joburg, Bloemfontein, just looking for investors who are making a difference, investors who are taking the leap of faith and investing in property. And then you have the giants of the world, the Absa Bank Home Loans, Tough, Preferential, Bruno Smart Attorneys, all the property companies supporting these beginner investors, supporting these investors who are actually taking the leap of faith because they're all taking risks, right? They're doing a lot to build their property portfolio. So I'm very fortunate to have all those partners back in this great initiative. And so there's a big shout out to anyone in South Africa who's done one property or they're a developer. Please check us out. Enter this great initiative. It's happening 14th of September, by the way, at Shepson Gardens, an exclusive event, and we're just calling on anyone that's in the property space.
Yeah, and by way of criteria consideration, because it's quite different categories here, from first-time rent to buyers, big mega developers. By way of those criteria and consideration, especially if we're looking at the guys that are playing at a smaller scale versus the developers, are there certain tick boxes that prospective investors would need to tick before they qualify for the awards?
Yes, absolutely. So what we look at is I've actually got a framework. It's a list of it's a list of things with regards to we'll score you on the profitability of the deal. There's a percentage, that's 25%. How profitable was the deal? We'll then look at the story of the deal. Tell us the story. Was it as easy as going to an agent and buying a property? How did you find the deal? We'll look at your structure. What entity did you buy it in? Did you buy it? It may be a great profitable deal, but you may have bought it in the wrong entity, i.e. a trusted company or personal name. We'll then look at did you think of an exit strategy?
Yeah.
So yes, this is a great deal, but if the economy changes or if something happens, how do you get out of the deal? So there's a specific framework which applies to both a beginner buying the very first property to somebody who's got a big portfolio. You could have a great portfolio with 15, 20 properties, but you've got no exit strategies. You've bought in the wrong entity. These are all negative cash flow, they're unprofitable. Versus somebody who's bought two great multi-lets and they're making 20,000 in positive cash flow in the right entity. They've got exit strategies. So yes, to answer your question, we have a specific framework for all investors.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of what you're saying also speaks to education and knowledge, right, of within the space, within the property market. And that's not something that a lot of people are sort of born knowing. So how do we have that conversation, especially if we're trying to open up the market, so to speak, be a bit more inclusive, and maybe even allow those with lesser knowledge but have the enthusiasm and the curiosity to penetrate the space?
Yes, and you're 100% right, because like I said to you, when you talk about property, who doesn't want to get involved in property? And I think the problem is people don't quite know what questions to ask, where to find the right property deal. But that was the whole reason why I started the SA Property Investors Network about 10 years ago. So the reason people join us is whether they come in the 2-day workshop I've just done, or it's a membership, or whatever it is, through webinars, through live workshops, through online property courses, we educate investors about the fundamentals of investing in property. We teach them about the entities, running the numbers, due diligence, downloading lifestyle reports, connecting them to banks like Absa and Tough and all the partners around us. So not only is there the education element, there's also, when you're in the property space, it can be a lonely journey. How do we connect those investors to the right people to help them build their own power team? And that's why people come to us, because say, Andrew, I want to become a developer. I want to become a student accommodation investor.
Yeah.
Andrew, listen, I'm employed full-time. I don't know where to start. So we plug them into the online courses. We plug them into the memberships. We plug them into, basically it's a community, right? If you think of a community of just like-minded property investors supporting each other through webinars, WhatsApp groups, live workshops. And then out of that, we get them to enter the Investor of the Year.
Oh, lovely stuff. And by way of segueing us into our next conversation, which, by great design of my producers, is speaking around hospitality properties and investing in that. Let me ask you, just some property investment gems in South Africa. Seeing a lot of people buying properties now for the use of Airbnbs. And I wonder if you're looking at cities like Cape Town, as much as they have a lot of traction with tourists, is that market going to be flooded too soon? And because there's now just access, because there's buildings upon buildings upon buildings, where it's just
Airbnbs. It's crazy, hey?
Yeah.
I mean, just to share with you on a personal level, because we do practice what we preach, right? I recently bought a building in Edenvale, Johannesburg.
Oh.
Now, when you think of short-term accommodation, you think of Cape Town and Bellton. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You can make a lot of money in those areas, but it's also based on the season, right? So your Decembers and Aprils are very busy, but then in Cape Town, we have lots of members in Joburg, by the way, busy buying properties in Cape Town, and your June, Julys are very quiet. So I went live with 8 Airbnb one-bedroom flats here in Edenvale, of all places, right, for Airbnb. And December, which you'd think would be a flat month, was my busiest month.
Oh.
So and what I find, and just to share with you on a personal level here, in Joburg, I get lots of Africans coming into Johannesburg, shopping in Sandton, then going back to Zimbabwe, back to Botswana. Lots of medical students coming through, lots of people that are touring the world, stopping in Joburg and staying over, versus your Cape Town market or Bellton market. Those are holiday makers going and staying. Do I feel it will dry up? I don't think so. I think South Africa, especially Joburg, if you take Joburg in Africa, it's one of the busiest cities, right, in terms of travel.
Yeah.
You take Cape Town, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. With everything that's going on in Cape Town. So I think we're very far away from being saturated. And remember, with Airbnb, it's one of the strategies we do teach here at SA Property Investors Network. In fact, I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Robin Booth.
Yeah.
He is the best host in South Africa. And as long as you're always better than your competition when it comes to Airbnb, because there's the old school Airbnb is you're going to meet your guests at the property and it's a schlep and you're serving food. I don't do that. Everything's automated. Providing technology works and you've got a great cleaning service. Airbnb is a strategy where you can scale. And I think that there's still a massive opportunity in that sector if you get the right education through SAPN.
Andrew, thank you so much for sharing of the knowledge and, of course, the Investor of the Year Awards. That was Andrew Walker, founder of the South African Property Investors Network. Let's just take a quick pause here and then we'll find out what's coming up today with Ashraf. And then on the other side of this, we wrap it up with Eben Odendaal.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Ashraf is in the building. How are you doing?
I'm very good indeed, yeah.
Fantastic. All right. What's coming out today?
Well, there's a lot of things. Of course, the weather's atrocious around the country. We'll certainly cover that around the country and try and make sense of what's happening in the Western Cape. But from WC as in Western Cape to the NK Party, that issue and their argument why former President Jacob Zuma should be able to get elected to Parliament if he does, is taking place right now. We'll try and understand that. John Steenhuisen, the DA leader, made some serious comments about other political parties effectively, getting out of his space. We're going to try and understand that. And it's 30 years since the Rwandan genocide. So we'll pick up on that issue and try and get some lessons, both from South Africa and certainly what's happened in Gaza and Palestine and Israel as well. All of that coming up on the National Pulse, 3 to 6.
Awesome stuff. It's a jam-packed show for you this afternoon with Ashraf. 3 to 6 on the National Pulse today. Let's take a quick pause. Eben Odendaal is standing by, and he's the founder of Touchdown Invest.
Channel your inner adventurer on Top Travel this Saturday night at 8:30 on S3 as Fez and Anesu are in Limpopo for tea with a rooibos-loving hippo named Jessica. Jumping off Graskop Gorge in Mpumalanga, Fez screams from the top all the way to the bottom. But standing at God's window will leave anyone speechless. That's Top Travel this Saturday night at 8:30. Repeat Sunday at 1 p.m. on S3.
2 years since winning the EFC middleweight title in the most dramatic and controversial fashion, Luke Michael finally defends his belt for the very first time at EFC 112 against the imposing submission machine, J.P. Kruger. And in the co-main event, featherweight champion Iga Smiley Cabeza becomes the next athlete aiming for champ status as he battles the imposing Kaleka Block Kabanda. EFC 112 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Alrighty, so we may have a lot of challenges, but the one thing that most certainly that we have going for us rather is our competitive leisure and tourism offerings. As I've just said and alluded to in the conversation before that the Airbnb and short rental space seems to be booming in South Africa right now, and we thought we'd catch up with Eben Ordendal, who's the founder of Touchdown Invest, and look at investing perhaps in hospitality properties. Is this still the way to go? How are you doing, Eben? You good?
Hi, Bridget. Yeah, thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to our discussion.
I mean, that is quite literally the first gateway question. Is still investing in hospitality properties a viable business option for those wanting to get into the space?
Bridget, very much. That is a simple yes. The main reason for that is the growth of tourism in the country is really doing numbers which is doing so much better than anybody's expectations. I mean, just year on year, especially South Africa and also Africa. Tourism has grown by over 57%, just in international inbound tourism. The important part in the question also to answer your question is that we have to look at, who will you be looking at investing with? What is the business model? Do you have the security of ownership? Is the multi-purpose property, which is not only looking after leisure tourism, but also more a multi-purpose of MICE business, which we call MICEs, meeting, incentive, conferencing, and events, to cover your quieter times, and making sure that your investment works for you. But at the moment, tourism is booming. There's been an unbelievable season, especially in regions like Cape Town and the Western Cape, and of course, obviously, when it comes to tourism in the bush, when we have something as special as we can offer to international tourists, you can't go wrong. Yeah.
And you allude to some important questions there, even, around some of the questions that those looking at investing in hospitality property particularly should be asking themselves. Because I don't know, but perhaps those wanting to get in might be one-dimensional in as far as, the angles that they're looking at. And that might not be the safest, most sustainable way to look at yourself as a hospitality property investor.
Well, I think the important part is that you need to ask yourself the question: Are you an investor that wants to do the management part? And management, of course, includes the marketing. It includes the sales. It includes the actual maintenance of the property. Or are you looking at giving that and outsourcing that to a company? So it's very important, if you're just a pure investor, to make sure what is your contract, that is in place when it comes to the management of that property, because that takes the hassle away and make it far more profitable. Because a lot of the groups, like our group, that's our business. We look after that part of the business. We look after the management, take the hassle away. We take anything from your check-in, check-out, your actual housekeeping, your maintenance, your client consumables, and the management of that whole process, right through from getting the head in bed, getting the marketing there, because your short-term or your short-term rentals or your hospitality rentals, not long-term, is really far more profitable. So the management of it, are you just a pure investor, or are you involved in or wanting to get involved into the hassle of the management of the property? So our group, what we do is not unique, but it's unique the way that we structure it. That very important is that you get a percentage of revenue and not a percentage of profit.
Yeah.
Because, it's a far better model to have a percentage of revenue, which is close to a guarantee then, instead of profit. Because if it's profit, you just have some ridiculous management costs in the end. You as an investor or as an owner or as a landlord do not necessarily get your rightful percentage, of the deal.
Absolutely.
So that's really, I think, the management part we look after, and then the structure of that transaction needs to be based on a percentage of revenue, or a fixed term lease, can also be viable. But
Let's also look at, I read, and I think it's part of the data that you guys have also put up, that approximately 57% of tourism expenditure is classified under leisure, right? And that represents a significant opportunity for investors, but it all depends on the model. Run me through what would be key to the success of a hospitality property model.
Firstly, you must be very sure, I think, when it comes to the model, like I said, that you are secure. When you invest in that model, that there needs to be ownership, there needs to be a security that you own and you are part of the bricks and cement. You might either own it as a whole or a share of that. That's very important. Then the next part is that, as I said earlier, is that your calculation when it comes to your structure or the transaction needs to be based on a revenue basis, but very important that there's a total pool of available rooms or available villas. When it comes to if we refer to a leisure hospitality, those villas or apartments needs to be all in one pool. If they're separate, then obviously some villas might be rented out and others are not rented out. So when it comes to a management agreement with a management company, you need to pool all the properties together. So even if your property is empty, you get a portion of that pool. And of course, that makes a very big difference in your calculation. Instead of saying, I'm picking this room or this villa to be occupied, then your calculation and your model will be different. So security is very important. So in other words, I own something, and then of course there needs to be an exit. Everybody would like to have some kind of an exit, and that exit can be you're selling your shares or you're selling your actual villa, and that will then, of course, give you an income, and you will have the capital growth on what that is worth. Especially now, there's quite a bit of capital growth, especially in areas like the Western Cape.
Absolutely. As a parting shot, as we wrap it up, knowing where to invest, is this also key and fundamental? Because this also speaks to understanding particular trends within the leisure property market.
Absolutely, 100%. Location and exactly where to invest and what is the ideal structure. There we can we can assist as a group to ensure that you can make sure that your location, that area is already none of our properties or the properties that or areas is any green fields. It's existing properties. It's a lot of them are existing hospitality properties which we just expand. And that's the safer model. Is to rather take part on something that's got a track record, it's got an history already, it's not greenfields, it's not a new property, it's not a new hotel, or a resort. It's an existing property with existing numbers. So the location and the actual property is extremely important to. I would not necessarily recommend a complete greenfields, clean, new property, because you do not have the track record, you do not have the numbers. So with our investments, it's quite simple. You deal with existing performance and existing numbers already.
Yeah.
And those numbers outperform any other kind of a property investment when it comes to long-term rentals. We have some of our initial investors is already way over 15% return of investment.
Wow.
Which is a very good number.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Eben, we appreciate the time with you today. We have to wrap it there, unfortunately. But I think, between the two conversations we've had in the last 30 minutes, those of you wanting to get into the property space, whether from hospitality properties or otherwise, you've definitely been afforded the benefit of some knowledge there. And ultimately, I guess the best advice is to also do your homework before making any kind of investment decisions. That was Eben Orendal, who's the founder of Touchdown Investment. From myself and my team, we thank you for choosing to be in conversation with us. If you're out and about on the roads, please be careful and be vigilant. The weather is bad country-wise, particularly in the Western Cape. We're sending all of our heartfelt prayers to all of you guys. Stay safe and stay dry. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again tomorrow.
Thank you, Bridget. In your top stories at 3, court hears IEC acted out of its scope by disqualifying Jacob Zuma, and the family of Mfundo Gcaba denies his involvement in the murder of AKA. This is SAFM News. A very good afternoon. I am Luyanda Maume. In some election-related